Coming up this hour, Cape Coast Assembly continues with demolition of unsafe buildings following fatal collapse that killed 2 people on Saturday.
Also, there some members of the 2022 batch of the Colleges of Education teachers picket at Ghana Education Service over 10 months of unpaid salaries after posting.
Plus, Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu charges West African colleagues to speedily operationalize the ECOWAS standby force as a potent tool to crush terrorism in the sub-region. Welcome to a new week of News Central. I'm Kevin Yamano.
And I am Mawina Egbeta. The bulletin starts right now.
In our first story, the Cape Coast Metropolitan Assembly says it has initiated a comprehensive engagement with families and owners of dilapidated buildings in the metropolis to get them pulled down. According to the mayor, Judge Justice Arthur, the CCMA is bent on ensuring that proper measures are taken to execute the planned demolitions to avert any disasters. So far, 1 other building has been demolished, while a third one, a 3-story building, is currently being pulled down. This follows the collapse on Saturday of a story building in Cape Coast, which led to the death of 2 people. Our correspondent Thomas Khan has been to the area following this development. He's joined us with a bit more on this story. Thomas, let's talk about the efforts that city authorities are putting in. Talk to us about how they are going about this.
Hello.
Yes, Thomas, let's talk about those efforts that city authorities are putting in keeping people safe in the metropolis. How are they going about this?
Can you please come again?
Hello, Thomas, can you hear us?
You now.
Thomas, what can you report from Cape Coast?
So currently, authorities are still going around with the demolition of the dilapidated buildings. As I speak to you now, I am currently at London Bridge, the very site which collapsed, the very first building that collapsed. I've seen the regional fire service commander and a couple of high-level delegations from the Ghana National Fire Service. And what I'm thinking is that they are still continuing with investigations that led to the collapse of the building. There's no, it is the range that pulled the building down. But they are doing extra investigations to know exactly what happened. I just spoke to the regional commander who tells me that their initial assessment shows that it was due to the rain. And again, this building has been there for almost 300 years. So it's not too surprising that it came down. Again, they are also saying that they are collaborating with the Metropolitan Assembly to demolish all buildings in the metropolis because of the nature they are in. Just for public safety.
I see. So how many of such over a century buildings are there in Cape Coast?
Well, I'm told that there are quite a number of them. And this week alone, the Assembly is targeting to pull down at least 5 of them. So it is an ongoing exercise that the Assembly says it is not backing down or backing back anytime soon. They are going to make sure that all such structures would go down. But as they carry out this, there has been some concerns by some residents and some well-meaning Ghanaians asking that Cape Coast is a tourism hub and also has a lot of these heritage sites. So they think that the Assembly should do extensive engagement to know if there are ones that can be preserved and find ways of keeping them.
I see. Let's take a listen to the mayor, George Arthur.
Today, I gave an order that all dilapidated buildings within this jurisdiction, that is Cape Coast Metro, must be demolished. So yesterday we ordered for the two, and we have done that. We have done justice to that, and today we are continuing with the demolition exercise. Where we are standing now is Brofiedo, and if you look at the building behind me, it has been there for about 10 years, and it's a debt trap building that, if care is not taken, can cause a lot of havoc to the people around. It has been in this particular state for the last 10 years. So I don't have to drag my feet to ensure this building is demolished. So that is why we are here trying to make sure that we demolish this serious, dilapidated and dangerous building. It's a dangerous building because it can actually cause havoc to the people around.
All right.
Oh, very well.
Arthur is Mayor of Cape Coast. We still have Thomas Khan, our Central Region correspondent, over the telephone. Thomas, I can imagine that families will be affected by this. How many people are we looking at, and what alternatives are there for them?
Yeah, so like you rightly said, the families are really concerned. But there are some who also agree with the assembly for it to carry out this demolition. But again, they are asking for more, aid, because there are some of them who do not have places to lay their head. So they're asking the assembly to do more to find some alternative places for them to stay in the meantime. And again, there are others who are also willingly going to the assembly to tell them that we've been waiting to put down our structure, but we didn't have the financial muscle to do it. So now that the assembly is ready to do this, they are giving the assembly all the go-ahead for the assembly to demolish those structures for them as a family.
Very well, Thomas, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for the reporting. Thomas Khan is our Central Region correspondent, reporting on that demolition exercise by city authorities to save lives.
Let's return to the capital and take you to the Ghana Education Service headquarters, because some members of the 2022 batch of the Colleges of Education teachers are picketed at the GES following 10 months of unpaid salaries after posting. My colleague Judith Brown has been engaging some of the aggrieved teachers who say they will not leave the GES premises until their concerns are addressed. Let's hear from some of them who've been speaking.
I'm currently here at the Ghana Education Service, where the 2022 batch of Colleges of Education teachers are here to picket. They have some concerns, the fact that they have not been paid ever since they were posted, as well as the fact that they do not have some IDs. I'm here to speak to one of their conveners, and then we'll get some reactions as well from other teachers as regards to their personal experiences, not having a salary for all these months. Hello, what's your name?
Thank you. My name is Simon Kofi.
Okay. So tell us really what your concerns are as teachers.
All right. Thank you very much. So as you rightly said, we are graduates from the Colleges of Education, the 2022 year batch. And we successfully had our service in 2023. Fast forward, in the same year, we took our teacher license exams. And then, God being so good, majority of us passed the exams. And that paved way for an automatic posting from our mother agency, that's the Ghana Education Service. And so in August last year, officially we were appointed. We went through every process that we were supposed to, go through. And then we had everything done. And so effective 10th September last year, we officially resumed work. Now, we've been working since September last year through to December, and then we had our first batch of staff IDs. Initially, we were told that staff IDs were released in batches. So when the first one came, those who were fortunate had their names captured. And those of us who didn't, we were still waiting patiently. Along the line, in January, there was a letter that circulated all over the country that personnel who are not on payroll to have their appointment revoked. We also know very well that from colleges of education, we have automatic posting. And so we were quite confused as to whether we were part or not. Fine. It was later recalled that we should go back to our regional offices for revalidation, of which we did that. Then, in the course of that, another set of staff IDs were released. We were still patient enough, knowing very well that the staff IDs are released in batches. From January, February, March, another batch was released. Then we saw that no, where the thing is heading towards is becoming unusual. So we started raising questions and then trying to find out why there is this delay in the release of the staff IDs. So we decided, like I said, we were contacting our district offices, our regional offices, and then they were still giving the same reasons that staff IDs are generated in batches. For how long should we wait? We've been waiting. Just last month, another set. I mean, in my region, I'm coming from Central Region as I speak now, and in my region, some were released. Still, some of us still couldn't find our names in the list. And so this time around, we thought it wise that no, we need to seek answers to it. If you could remember, a couple of months ago, we were here on the same agenda, and then they promised that, yes, they are working on it. But unfortunately, they gave us some reasons that we think that's not tally with the reason why we are not getting the staff IDs.
That's one of the teachers speaking to my colleague Judith Brown. She's joined us on phone right now with a bit more on this. Judith, help us clarify exactly what the concerns are. So in one breath, they raise concerns about a lack of salaries running into 10 months. Then we're hearing him as well explain, saying that they don't have staff IDs. Is it that they've been working, they are old, and still do not have staff IDs?
Okay, and so Marina, the issue here is that a number of them, after their posting last year in August, do not have staff IDs. And once they do not have staff IDs, it means that, of course, they cannot get paid because it doesn't really tell whether they have been employed or not. Until they have that staff ID, they cannot say that they're employed as teachers, but they have been deployed to these various regions across the country. Some are from Accra, have been employed all the way in the Upper East region without salaries. They've been working for 10 months, and they have nothing to show for. Meanwhile, they are renting in these regions. They are eating, they have to feed, all of these things, and they have no money to cater for themselves because they do not have staff IDs and they have not been paid. And then there's also the concern that some of those who have actually gotten these staff IDs are still not being paid. Some even said that after they got the staff IDs, after a while, a few months, their names got missing completely from the system. And although they come to the GES with these concerns, they have still not been addressed. Their names are still not in the system. Meanwhile, they hold staff IDs and they are still not receiving any salary. So these are the concerns that these people are bringing. They are good teachers. A while ago, they were called into what the GES said was a closed-door meeting,
right.
But they insisted that until the media walks in with them, they're not going to have that meeting with them. It took a while. There was a bit of chaos. They were shouting, in fact, at the top of their voices, and they finally calmed down and allowed the media out. But even so, the meeting still did not happen because each and every member over here amongst the teachers said that they were all going to be in the meeting. They are not going to allow a few leaders to enter the meeting with the leaders, authorities of the GES. And so all of them were in there, and you can imagine with a number of people, they're over 100 in number, in there, in one meeting, it's definitely not going to end well. So the meeting could not happen eventually. They told all of them to come down, and after a while, we saw that the police had arrived, and so the police were deployed here. They are still standing here as we speak. They're sort of manning the place and guarding the premises, and so they were brought back downstairs, and then we saw the Deputy Director General of the GES, Professor Chisi. She came down to address them then, and when she spoke to them, all she could say was that they need to put their grievances on paper and present to them officially at the GES. And until that, they cannot really do much about the situation. But she assured them that they've been working around the clock to solve a lot of their grievances. I mean, she says that apart from that, there are a lot of other grievances from other sections of teachers, and so they're not the only ones with problems. And so they have to put them on paper and then bring them to them formally. But
Judith, talk to me about the reaction of the teachers to this statement from one of the GES directors that they have to return, put all of their concerns on paper, and then return. How have the teachers reacted to this?
Exactly. Now that reaction was quite bad. They got really angry because right after she said that, she just walked away. And they said, no, that's not the end of things. Things cannot end that way. They started talking, shouting at the top of their voices. The police had to man the place. And they're still here. They say they're not going to leave until their grievances are addressed. They took mosquito nets, put it on the floor, sat on the floor. Most of them are still here. And they're shouting and saying that they will not leave the premises. They will sleep here until their grievances are addressed. So they're not having any of what the Deputy Director General has said. For them, they need their IDs today, and they need them now, and they need to be paid as well as soon as possible. So, Nana, that's currently what's happening right here at the Ghana Education Service. We're yet to know really whether they're really going to sleep here. But as we speak, they're holding their mosquito net, and they're chanting, and they do not want to allow anything to happen. They do not want any peace until their grievances are addressed.
Judith, thank you very much for those details. That's my colleague Judith Brown. She's at the Ghana Education Service headquarters, where the 2022 batch of colleges of education teachers posted, but they do not have their staff IDs, which means they cannot be paid or they are not guaranteed payment despite being posted to their respective places of work. They make the argument they've been teaching, hence they want their staff IDs so that the 10 months of arrears owed them can be paid. It's a subject matter, like Judith mentioned, we'll follow closely and bring you details of as to whether or not they passed the night at the premises of the GES.
I want to take you now to the Ashanti region, where 2 individuals have been arrested by Kodia police on suspicion of setting fire to the official residence of the Ifijakwa Bre South Municipal Chief Executive. The residence was gutted by fire on Saturday evening, though a swift response from the Mamponting fire station minimized the damage. Well, I'm now joined by Ibrahim Abubakar, our Ashanti region correspondent, who has the details of the story. Ibrahim, good afternoon to you. What can you report about this fire incident, the duo who have been arrested? How are they connected to the fire?
This incident happened on Saturday around 10 p.m. That was in the evening. And these 2 had to be arrested because a month ago, prior to the nomination of the current MCE, Patricia Ankra, there were a faction of members of the NDC who organized a press conference and said that if their preferred candidate is not given the nod as the MCE, then they will be left with no choice than to start burning public properties. In fact, they mentioned the municipal assembly office, they mentioned some bungalows, and also the residents of the DC. Now, after the nomination, everything was going smoothly, just for this incident to happen on Saturday in the evening. So obviously, the leadership of these groups are the prime suspects. So that's how come these 2 individuals have been arrested. But for now, we cannot confirm because the fire service personnel are still conducting their investigation. The police are also doing their investigation. So for now, we can't confirm whether it is an accidental fire or an arson. But these 2 individuals, as I speak to you, have been picked. And in a couple of minutes, they will be arraigned before the Kodia court. They have been charged with damaging of public property whilst they await for the report from the Ghana National Fire Service. But this morning, the MC for the area, Ishel Ankra, has visited the site. The Member of Parliament has also visited the site. In fact, for her, she is saying that this incident, or this isolated incident, will not deter her from carrying her duties as a municipal chief executive. In fact, let us clear this, that she is even yet to move to that residential bungalow. But on Friday, we were told that she already sent some of her items there, hoping that by the close of the week, the place will be made ready for her to go and also occupy, only for this incident to happen. But earlier, I spoke with the MC and also the Member of Parliament for the area. Let's listen to what they've been sharing with us.
I believe that the police are doing their investigation and they'll come up with good results. Even as at the time of the incident, the police were able to arrest 2 suspects. As I learned they will be sent to court today, and they are also doing their investigation. So anybody who is involved in this will be apprehended.
Rather unfortunate at this time our MC this thing has happened, but just that damage, properties have been damaged. So I will just urge the constituent to recommend the swift response from the fire service, the police, and the NADMO.
Well, Ibrahim, we've just heard from the Chief Executive Officer and the Member of Parliament, but talk to us about who are these 2 people and why are they persons of interest in this fire incident?
Well, Kemi, like I rightly mentioned, these are members, known NDC members of the constituency. They are persons of interest because of the earlier threat that they issued. They wanted the 2024 parliamentary candidate for the National Democratic Congress to be nominated as the MCE for the area. So prior to that, they held a press conference and issued that threat that if a name is not mentioned and any other person's name is mentioned, then they'll go ahead and burn some public property. So now that the resident or official bungalow of the MCE has been gutted by fire, then obviously they should be the first suspects, and that's how come the police had to step in quickly and arrest them, because
I see.
They spoke on TV, they went viral, and for that matter, there were intensified calls for these individuals to be arrested.
Well, Ibrahim, that's a story we'll keep an eye on. Thank you so much for the reporting. Ibrahim Abubakar is Shanti region correspondent, bringing us that story from Ifija-Kwabre South.
Now, let's bring you a bit more stories, because Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has charged his West African colleagues on the need to operationalize the ECOWAS standby force as a potent tool to crush terrorism in the sub-region. Speaking at a summit in Abuja, President Bola Tinubu of Nigeria said no nation can address the challenges of terrorism and external security threats in the sub-region alone.
Excellencies, Head of States and Government, while celebrating our achievement over the past 50 years, we must equally confront the stark and persistent challenges that continue to impede our aspirations. Foremost among them, at the moment, are the security threats, violent extremism, and other cross-border crimes that have continued to widen and deepen in their intensity. These threats are transitional in nature and are driven by quite an agile and dangerous network that respects no borders. No single nation can therefore address these challenges alone. We must strengthen coordination, amplify political will, and prioritize a collective approach to security. This is why the ECOWAS standby force must move from the concept to operational reality now. I am a little bit worried about the slow pace of its activation, which is taking longer than desired. We must act decisively to operationalize the ECOWAS standby force on the fight against terrorism to serve as an instrument for peace and stability for our region. I am pleased to note that under my stewardship as the chair of authority, the ECOWAS military logistic depot in Lungui, Sierra Leone, has been completed, the depot will play a critical role in providing equipment and other logistics to forces deployed by ECOWAS. Last February in Addis Ababa, Nigeria signed a stealth agreement with the African Union. With the completion of the depot, Nigeria is committing itself to both the sea lift and air lift arrangement with ECOWAS. Nigeria will continue to play its leading role in supporting ECOWAS regional responses to peace and security.
And that's Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Let's take all of this to seasoned security analyst Dr. Ishel Norman. Pick his thoughts on the standby force for ECOWAS, and really the big question, does it immediately answer the questions of terrorism within the West African sub-region? Doc, I appreciate you speaking to us. I think I want to take the conversation from there. The chair of the head of authority for ECOWAS makes the argument that the standby force of ECOWAS is crucial in helping deal a decisive blow to the threats of terrorism on the sub-region. Is it that straightforward, or there will be a bit more needed, but the standby force is as important as well?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I think President Tinubu is correct in asking for two things: political will, because we share collective security within the region, or in other words, regional security. So the collective security or regional collective security is one of the bases for which Article 8 of the UN Charter allow these kinds of groups like ECOWAS to be formulated and to allow standby forces, which is actually permitted by this particular provision. And then, of course, under the ECOWAS protocol mechanism for conflict prevention, management, resolution, peacekeeping, Article 21, and security, also encourages the use of the standby force. In the past, we have used standby force to dispel or control or de-escalate violence within the region. But President Tinubu's call is actually specific to three countries, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali. During the military coup, you remember what happened when our ex-president Akufo-Addo and Tinubu were the main, basically, protagonists or the leaders in pushing for military intervention. But because the standby force, ECOWAS, falls under the AU, everything they do has to be in compliance with the AU.
Right.
So if AU doesn't allow it, because the UN Security Council may not approve of it, then I think it may not work. But the main issue with the ECOWAS standby force has nothing to do with political will. It has to do with money. The countries don't contribute their quotas in order to maintain the operational work of ECOWAS, the administrative and operational work of ECOWAS. So it is the money which then segues into the political will.
Right.
The countries don't want to spend the money because their own armies lack a lot of resources which they cannot provide or have not been able to provide. So how can they contribute to a third agency like a ECOWAS standby force?
Right. And Doc, how important is this concern you're raising, a lack of money? Because we know in the last few weeks and months there's been general concern and conversation on the African continent about the U.S. security presence on Africa leaving at some point in time. Considering we're not making money available to support the standby force and the likes, could we see a deterioration to a great extent of our fight against terrorism, not just in the West African sub-region, but generally across the sub-Saharan African continent as well?
I think My brother, your question is quite germane. And the reason is that there is a movement towards increasing military expenditure. Africa is confronted with human security issues that they cannot even fulfill. It's on education, roads, transport, everything is under a lot of stress. So the little money that is available, the governments in the various countries don't want to use it towards an ECOWAS standby force. Once again, when their own armies don't have the equipment they need to have, they don't have the bungalows they need to have, the well-being of soldiers in Ghana is actually sometimes is quite concerning because we are not providing the kinds of facilities that they should have. So when they have to contribute to a third force, ECOWAS standby force, it becomes quite a problem for them. And the more money the world contributes towards the military buildup and arms buildup, it means that less money is available
to do
for
other
human
important
security
things
and human flourishing. So it is a balancing act
right.
that they have not been able to find a proper equation as to how to handle it yet.
In the interim, while this gap exists, what more can be done? Because, like you've mentioned, the finance is not readily available. What does a sub-region continue to do to increase its chances in this fight? Because every now and then we get reports of attacks here and there.
Well, they have to moderate, investment in the domestic matters and in the regional affairs as well. So if, for example, you're going to spend $100 million in re-equipping your military and all of that, spend 80 million and give 20 million to ECOWAS because we have a strong ECOWAS so that they can confront the common enemy, terrorism, cross-border criminal activities, and so on and so forth. So it is neither here nor there. It is an obligation that must be fulfilled, whether they like it or not. So they should find a way to balance the expenditure at home and the expenditure towards ECOWAS.
Doc, as always, I appreciate you speaking to us. That's Dr. Ishel Norman speaking to us this afternoon on the challenges of seeing to the standby force of ECOWAS being readily present as well here in the sub-region, amongst many other things. But let's bring you a bit more still on terrorism in the sub-region, because security analyst Dr. Victor Doc is advocating for stronger collaboration between member states, particularly as the U.S. readies itself to leave the troubled region of Niger. Speaking to TV3, Dr. Doka cautioned Ghana against facing head-on the threats of terrorism alone, insisting such an action could be counterproductive.
When you talk about Niger specifically, within its sub-regional organization, you would expect that is when they have to be proactive enough, okay? The problem or the challenge has been that the proactiveness of these regional organizations in relation to security, peace, and conflict has been more of reactionary than being proactive. So then I expect the regional organizations, if they want to assist Niger, because the nation is facing challenges in fighting these armed groups. So with the exit of the US and its robust system, i.e. intelligence gathering, support, technical, operational support, and all of that, the regional organization which Niger belongs to has to come in as quickly as possible. How do they manage to get the junta or the hierarchy in Niger to believe in the system that they have for implementation with regards to fighting these armed groups?
Lastly, let's zero down on Ghana, and we've seen the Ghanaian government introduce a number of policies as the see something, say something. How does the Ghanaian government and its people ready themselves in an area where all of their neighbors have suffered one form of terrorist attack or the other, but they have continuously remained free from any of such activities?
That's a tough one. I see a very long process with regards to the U.S. leaving and how Ghana can quickly, fill in the gap and then remain resilient. What has made us very resilient. With regards to, you mentioned the see something, say something. Can we have other policies in regard to that? Now, collectively, the security, yes, is there. The willingness to fight, armed groups if it should happen in our territory is there. How do we ensure that there's commitment? The political will is a must. It is there. Now you need neighboring countries' support also. Where are these armed groups coming in from, so that you can then prompt your neighbor to check them before they enter? So our resilience mechanisms will still have to be in place collectively. We need the numbers with regards to personnel. You need the logistics. You need the capacity building. And then the intelligence aspect.
As security analyst, Dr. Victor Doc, on the big subject of fighting terrorism, not just here in Ghana, but across the ECOWAS sub-region, even as the U.S. announces its intention to leave a number of the troubled regions. This is News Central here on TV3, going for our very first break. When we return, we have a bit more stories for you, including conversations about fuel price increases, Israel-Iran war, what are the possible implications? All of those, if you stay with us, please do stay.
Welcome back. It's still News Central here on TV3. I'm Kemini Amano. In other stories this afternoon, CEO of the National Petroleum Authority says pump prices of fuel will not be heavily impacted by the ongoing war between Iran and Israel. Global crude prices have crossed $80 per barrel as Iran threatens to close the Strait of Hormuz, a critical canal point which ferries 20% of the world's fuel products. But as concerns of the impact of the war on pump prices in Ghana heighten, Eduji Tamaklo says enough reserves are available to lessen the impact on Ghanaian pockets.
We are confident that with the stock we have currently, we'll be able to mitigate the impact of what people are expecting to be higher prices at the pump. You see, there are two key components, the FOB pricing and the exchange rate. Thankfully, there has been relative stability and firmness from policymakers in keeping the stability of the cedi in check. With that expectation, I'm confident that the expectation that prices will go up will not get there. What I see is that we'll never get to the like January 2025, December 2024 prices of petroleum product. We won't get there.
On what we have, the stock we have available, that's coming under some question. I don't know what the numbers are. What's the assurance in the confidence that could?
We currently have in excess of 200 million liters, 200 million liters, almost 240 million liters of diesel, over 150 million liters of petrol. So together, over 400 million liters of those white products in the country. But the question is, have our ports been shut to fuel coming in? Definitely not. We are putting in place all the mechanism to ensure continuous, flow of products into the country. That's what I can say.
Now, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called for an immediate end to the war between Iran and Israel, urging both sides to return to diplomatic dialogue. Addressing an emergency security council meeting, the Secretary General emphasized that peace in the Middle East cannot be imposed, but must be embraced through mutual commitment and dialogue. Stanley Niblo monitored the proceedings from Geneva and our reports.
The emergency UN Security Council meeting was convened by Guyana's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Caroline Rodriguez Beckett, who currently serves as president of the council for the month of June.
The provisional agenda for this meeting is threats to international peace and security. The agenda is adopted. In accordance with Rule 37 of the Council's Provisional Rules of Procedure, I invite the representatives of Iraq, the Islamic Republic of Iran, Israel, and Kuwait to participate in this meeting. It is so decided.
The Sunday evening meeting was triggered by the attack of 3 major Iranian nuclear sites by the United States in what it described as a necessary action to prevent Iran from advancing its nuclear ambitions, a move Israel had long argued posed a direct threat to the regional peace and stability. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed deep regret that earlier efforts to de-escalate tensions and prevent war had been ignored.
2 days ago, in this very chamber, I made a direct appeal: give peace a chance. That call was not heeded. Instead, the bombing of Iranian nuclear facilities by the United States marks a perilous turn in a region that is already reeling. From the outset of the crisis, I have repeatedly condemned any military escalation in the Middle East. The people of the region cannot endure another cycle of destruction. We must act immediately and decisively to halt the fighting and return to serious, sustained negotiations on the Iran nuclear program.
The Assistant Secretary General for Europe, Asia and Americas stressed that dialogue must be prioritized over continued violence.
The Middle East cannot afford yet another violent conflict where civilians pay the price of military confrontations. And the world will also not be spared from the ramifications of this dangerous conflict. There is no military solution to this conflict. We need diplomacy, de-escalation, and confidence building now.
Both the Iranian and Israeli ambassadors to the UN each defended their respective positions.
This was not a war of choice. This action was a necessity. It was a righteous act for the United States, for Israel, for the Middle East, and for the world. The entire world should say on record today, here and now, thank you. Thank you to the United States for removing the greatest threat to global security.
Let's move away from that war in Iran, because have you ever wondered how artificial intelligence is changing the face of education? Do you think it has the power to revolutionize how we learn, teach, and think? As Ghana begins to experiment with AI in higher education, there is growing interest and caution about what this could mean for students, teachers, and the future of learning. Deborah Mensah reports.
In a full-part lecture hall at the University of Ghana, students gather not for a typical class, but for a session on artificial intelligence. AI is no longer the stuff of science fiction. From writing support to virtual tutoring, it is becoming a practical tool for education. Across the world, AI is shifting the way we teach and learn. With AI-powered adaptive learning platforms and intelligent tutoring systems, educators are moving from delivering content to facilitating personalized, engaging learning experiences. But with every opportunity comes challenges. While the promise of AI is exciting, ethical concerns, data privacy, and overdependence loom large.
A number of the students are finding the easy way out. When assignments are given them, they want to use AI to do that.
Some of the students are overusing it, so they can probably be able to submit assignments and then make it look like it's their own generated content. But it's not good because you actually leverage on an AI assistive tool. So it would be nice, you should be able to give an in-text citation and a proper referencing.
Students have embraced the tools with varying levels of concern.
I was very slow with my assignments and my research. I would basically read books and Google stuff about a particular topic before doing my assignment. Since I discovered AI, I just put the complex topics or content in the chatbot, and then it would summarize it and make it easy for me to understand, fastening my learning process.
I use it as a supportive tool in my day-to-day work. When I have assignments and I have to do research, I do use it to get summaries of much literature so that I can have a fair understanding of what is being done in the field.
Looking at the way technology is advancing, AI must be inculcated to everyone.
One of the biggest questions is whether Ghana is ready to fully integrate AI into its education system. Though universities like University of Ghana are taking the lead, many public schools still lack the digital infrastructure to keep up.
Ghana as a country is not ready because of the kind of educational system that we are operating. Because we have been dealing more of memorization, that is why it has become more of a big challenge for us to even think of AI in our educational mainstream, because we are only going to further compound a group of young people who, if are not well trained, will only be memorizing, allowing the system to generate content for them, and then they just memorize or just even submit them the same way they got it.
And then there are the ethical dilemmas. How much data is collected from students? Who owns it? Can AI systems be trusted with student privacy?
Sometimes when you prompt the AI to generate some responses for you, you find out that the information it gives you are biased. Some of them are just wrong information, and some of them are just mislead you because the data that they are being trained with are biased. Mostly they are trained with data sets, foreign data sets. So sometimes when you want something that is locally based, it tends to be biased.
While AI may be a powerful tool, it is not a replacement for human interaction.
We are also training faculty to begin learning how to set what we call AI-resistant questions. And yes, there are some questions that AI cannot answer. Maybe you may not know, but trust me, AI cannot answer certain questions, especially questions that you put them in context.
In the end, education is not just about content, it is about connection, critical thinking, and creativity. The future of education in Ghana may well be digital, but it must also be ethical, inclusive, and balanced.
And certainly, one that will continue to have a lot of conversations around the subject of AI and how far-reaching it can be. We're going for yet another break. When we return, we're in some parts of the Greater Accra region where water has been a challenge for up to 20 years. This is News Central. Stay with us. Now, for more than 20 years, the people of Totope in the Adan East constituency have lived without access to safe and potable water. What should be a basic right has become a daily struggle for life, with regular cases of cholera, diarrhea, and skin infections. Christian Yale reports that scientists have tested samples of the water and declared it unsuitable for any use.
Totope is located in Ada East and some 3 hours drive from Accra. Survival here means fetching water from the belly of the earth and praying it does not make you sick. For over 2 decades, residents of Totope have been digging holes near the sea to collect water that seeps in, using it without any treatment. Doris Sewu is a mother of 4, spends most of her productive hours storing water to take care of her kids.
I
have 4 kids. In the morning, I have to fetch water early to prepare the 2 elderly ones for school. In the afternoon, I leave the younger ones in the house with their grandma to fetch again for use in the evening. It becomes very difficult each day.
This is not just about health, but also a dignity issue. Doris exemplifies the life of women in this community who queue in the morning, afternoon and evening to fetch water.
I I don't treat the water after fetching it. I only store it in the gallons for the debris to settle before I use for cooking and other domestic chores. Sometimes we fall sick, but we don't have a choice.
They are sometimes forced to buy sachet water for bathing, but that is a luxury for most. So they rely on what seeps out of the soil, unfiltered and untreated. The fishing community has 2 pipes, but the taps do not flow. Diseases like cholera, diarrhea, as well as skin infections have become common in Totope and neighboring towns.
He gave assurance that by the end of 2021,
the Member of Parliament for Ada, Comfort Doyo Kujo, upon a visit to her office, showed me letters, requests made and responses from state agencies in the past, which have all not yielded any result.
It's very pathetic seeing women digging holes to fetch water for their house choices. As a woman, I don't feel comfortable.
The First Deputy Majority Whip said the situation is a real trouble for her.
In the 8th Parliament, I raised a statement on the floor of Parliament. Government Assurance Committee in 2022 called them to come and answer questions whether the problems have been faced or not. They came out with a nice answer that they have faced the problem. This is it. So this 9th Parliament, I've been able to reach the Minister of Water, and the response that I've gotten there from the Minister of Works and Housing and Water Resources Office is very, very encouraging.
I took samples of the water to the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research for testing, and the results are troubling.
We had total coliform, which I have already mentioned as indicators. We had E. coli, which are pathogens. We have the staphylococcus, which all these parameters, it should be 0. There shouldn't be any bacteria to make it suitable for drinking. But this sample has E. coli and total coliform, which are above the recommended level.
The water from Totope does not meet the World Health Organization standards and even recommendations by the Ghana Standards Authority.
Per the results from this sample, it shows that the water is not suitable for drinking purposes without any treatment.
Mothers say the water is slowly killing them, yet they continue to fetch water from the same contaminated source.
This is what we go through daily. It causes waste and knee pains, which affects how we are able to prepare our children for school. We plead for help.
In the week ending 13th June, officials of the Community Water Sanitation Agency visited the town in the company of the MP and promised to ensure reliable and potable water supply in the area.
I can't say anything about it, being it tomorrow or a year to come that I will be able to get water. But the only thing we can do is to push it hard and harder for the government to see that indeed we are in water crisis.
This is where I needed the government most. I needed the civil society most. I needed the ambassadors most, and needed the NGOs most.
For Totope and its environs, the Sustainable Development Goal 6 remains a mystery. Clean water and sanitation have eluded them. The community stands as a painful reminder of how some lives are lived far from the promises of progress. Residents here are not asking for luxury, just clean water to live and to grow. They still wait for water, for help, for change. Christian Yale, TV3 News, Totope, Ada East.
And this is pretty much the Greater Accra region, and so
it is
makes you wonder what other areas, other regions possibly could be facing with water challenges. But that's our bulletin for you this afternoon. I am Mawin Aigbet.
And I am Kemeni Amano. Next is the afternoon show. We will see you same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.